What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development. Wanted to do something a little bit different today. Normally 2-minute text, but I wanted to kind of do, I haven't done one of these in a while, like a tech showcase, or a little, not like a kind of like that, like almost like a tech guide for Millennium Exodia. Specifically, yes, Exodia, not just Millennium Engine, right? For those of you that know me in person and have seen on the channel, I've been a really huge fan of this deck. I've been obsessed with it for the last like 3 to 4 weeks. I took a small break from it for about like a week and a half to just test for meta stuff and Rhoda. I got a few more major events coming up, a cash tournament, things like that this weekend. But I wanted to wait and then retry it again post Rhoda. But I wanted to go through and showcase all of the techs that I've kind of found over the time that I think are interesting or at least worth exploring. Some things are better than others, of course. If you don't know, I am a moderator for the Millennium Exodia group. There's a bunch of cool chats in there. Check those out. They do a lot of really cool things. But I'll just kind of slowly go through everything one at a time and really just talk through all of it. So, of course, with the Millennium stuff, right? The new kid on the block is the awesome Blue Eyes of the Heart. Not a tech, but going to be a staple, a 3 of, in my opinion, searchable because it's a Millennium, both from Sang Engine, because it's always treated as a Millennium card, and the fact that it is a dragon with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense, so you can get it with Melody of the Awakening Dragon. I'm sure people knew this. There's been talk about adding this and Melody and Escatos, of course, because it's the same stat line, 3k, 25. In a perfect world, I'd love to be able to use a card like Blue Eyes Jet Dragon in some way too, but Melody can't search it, and Blue Eyes Jet Dragon does require the normal Blue Eyes, not, you know, just any Blue Eyes, which is kind of neither here nor there. The other option you kind of have is Bingo Machine. Reveal 3 Blue Eyes of the Heart, add 1. You can do that if you don't want to go the Melody route. I'm not even sure if this will be worth the slots. I think the deck will be consistent enough with just 3 of this and the Mulcharmies if you can get them, of course. So that's one card I wanted to call out. The second thing is, people are probably not going to like this, but I personally enjoy playing the Fiend Smith engine quite a lot in this deck. Even with Shifter, right? A lot of the time Shifter's going to pass, you set up, and even if they can't kill you, you get to turn 3, whatever, and Shifter's not there or you don't open it, it just does so many things to break boards. Specifically the Send from Requiem equipped with Engraver. It also lets you to climb into a card like Sequence with Aerial Eater and then a spare Millennium Body on field. You have all 3 of those to link those 3 plus an opponent's monster away into Underworld Goddess, which is really, really good. The other card I've also been using it as a toolbox for is Access Code. This card is really, really incredible as well. So I just think it's a lot of free play and forces so much without dedicating a normal summon that if you have it, I think it's still decent to play in the deck. Of course, there are some ways I kind of explained you can use weird things in my 2-minute text without Engraver, and you can still kind of do other neat things, but it just enables so much. In that same realm, I'll move this over and call this out here, is the Unchained package. I side this going first. I shared a combo with this on the Exodia group of how you do that. Basically, all 3 Millennium bodies can convert into a Soul of Rage in the graveyard with the Abominable Trap set. So when you onk, it doesn't get shuffled back. So you can still reborn this and then link away a guy for 1 interrupt and then into SP for an additional potentially 2 more interrupts as well, on top of using a card, say like the, where is it? The Silo Hat Rabbit, right? To set another card. Your whole goal, if you're smoke screening or you're forced to go first, is to be able to build a board that doesn't just auto lose if, you know, you're playing a blind second build like I am. Another thing I wanted to call out, one of my friends, Caleb, I talked to him a lot. He picked up the deck and is learning it quite a bit, is, you know, what do we do if you don't want to bother with pre-sale prices and you want to wait 2-3 weeks for this to drop to, I think, the $5 it probably will be. An option is a old card called Battle Guard Echoes. It's a super from, I don't even know what set, but it's cheap, you know, less than $1, right? When it's activated, you add a level 5 Earth Warrior from deck to hand. That's just another Rhoda for shield, which is essentially a Rhoda for Ankh. Plays a little harder in the draw, of course, because there's 1 extra search, but if you're looking for something in between, this might be a good thing. The other thing to note about it is if a monster is returned from the field to the hand, you can book something. So this is for people who are obliterate enjoyers. If you obliterate, bounce something while this is on the field, you get a book on top of that. So just something cute and something budget, where if you want to try something else, you can start there. The other package I've been really messing with that I really do enjoy, and I'm just not sold on ratios yet, is Paralog Seed with Nibiru, with Thea, and Hex Sealed Fusion. Thea was something I tested at the regional because a lot of the times you're going to end on Exodia Fusion if you go first, plus spare Millennium bodies. And this is for people who are like, I don't want to play the Unchained combo. I'm not paying for engravers, right? Things like that. So that's perfectly fine. You could just tribute 2 bodies to summon Thea, and then you now have a summon limit for 4 on the board that is searchable through a card like Gallant Granite. And you have so many free bodies. Making this is always really easy if you have Parallel, summon Parallel, and do all that. So you could search one of these 3 if you want. For Hexsteel Fusion, this is the one you have to play. You do need the dark one. Unfortunately, you don't need the others. Really old. I think it's a common from Flaming Eternity and maybe something else like the Yugi's World Legendary Collection or Structure Deck or Starter, whatever it is, something like that. Or Jade, I don't know. But it's old, right? But they're cheap, but it's old, so it's hard to find. You substitute this as any fusion material, but the other one has to be correct. Its effect is tribute monsters on the field, including itself as cost, so it does dodge Imperm and Valor, all that kind of stuff if they don't do it on the summon. And then you special summon a Dark Fusion from the extra deck. So this is for Millenniumized Restrict because the materials are Relinquished plus any effect monster. So this is Relinquished, and then any of your Millennium bodies are just the effect monster. So this is a really easy thing to play going first, or even going second if you want. But going first, this seems like a really solid package to do, even just either siding in 3 of this, or if you're already maining Paralog Seed, you know, this helps you do Underworld Goddess, helps you do Access Code, whatever. And you could also use it to abuse cards like these. So that's something I wanted to call out. The last card is, of course, what you want to set off Rabbit. I think it's, I don't even remember. Yeah, this one. Usually the 2 are between these guys here, either Azaroon or Silo Hat Trick. I like Hat Trick quite a lot for a couple reasons over Azaroon, specifically in Exodia. One is you don't have a lot of like board presence if they just clear the big guy because everything else gets shuffled back. So this being an illusion monster, not being able to die by battle is really important against stuff like Tenpai can make really weird situations, right? The second card is part of it is it's an Imperm, but it happens in a new chain. So like you activate it, that resolves, it summons itself, and then new chain link 1, or if your opponent's playing, this becomes chain link 2, negate something. So I like this because it's a much different form of interaction. It's a little more unique. So like the easiest example is they go Snake Eye Ash, add Poplar, and they go Poplar chain link 1 in hand to summon. You go chain link 2 this. Their turn player, so Poplar has to be chain link 1, and then Silo Hat is chain link 2, and then you have the choice of either negating the Poplar or turning off the Snake Eye Ash, which is really, really nice. So yeah, just a different card. The last few cards in here are things that were, I would say, experimented with more early in the life of Exodia. I don't think they're as good by any means. They might still find a home down the line, but I just don't think they're as good. But I still wanted to at least call it out. Is Millenniumized Illusionist searches any Millennium card, Sangenjin. So if you already had a Millenniumized Restrict, you could add this as like a hand trap. I don't think that's too much setup, right, to get to that point. Similarly, Agnimal Candle, kind of like what I was saying with the Hat Trick, is just a neat way to stop you from dying and also be kind of like a protection effect, like, and it just really negates their whole board, which is cool. But I think this card is unfortunately too slow. That might be different next format when you have Shifter, 1 set of Mulch Armies, 2 sets of Mulch Armies, and Dogwood. Maybe you can get away with this, but I feel like by that point you're winning already if you resolve those, right? Alpha is still a card I am quite a big fan of. You could argue Mind Control is maybe a little better, so is Change of Heart, but just the fact that you can summon this, it forces them to interact with you, and if they don't, you bounce it back to the hand, bounce something of theirs, and then you could most likely summon it again if they have any monster on field and still attack over things. Like, it really helps break boards and is a resource that, if you really want, stays in your hand for following turns after Ankh resolves. So I really am a big fan of Alpha. Valor, this is not quote-unquote a tech, but a lot of people were trying to, again, find ways to turbo out Millenniumized Restrict more early on, before I think stuff like Hexsteel Fusion came into the mix. Muddy Mud Dragon is basically the same thing. You just normal the Valor, have a use for it with Shield, it overlaps, has a hand trap that's a second use that comes up every now and then. Just something to note, right, is you just fuse into this and then use this as a substitute, right? The dark monster that is acting as relinquished, plus any random effect monster of your choice. The last one is Whitewoods. Has been talked about and been starting to be explored, but I don't think people have ever landed on like a good version. My thought was, again, using it as an engine for something like Muddy Mud, but at that point you just use a card that you just draw it guarantees it pretty much. Yes, it takes your normal summon, but like if you're going first, who cares at that point? Because it's usually a post side card, or if we're going first build. But yeah, there's just some experimentation here. I don't think it's been solved. There's some stuff with like even Hop Your Squadron a little bit too. But again, I'm not too sure on that. You could take inspiration from, there was like a Tenpai list that played like Gizmek Uka, Hop Your Squadron, a bunch of Bestials, Rescue Ace Impulse, Nibiru, just the stuff that, like a bunch of stuff that puts bodies on the board. And you could take a route like that, but I don't think that works too well here. And then the last couple cards, Salmon Breaker, Secret Village, and Grandhorn. Grandhorn's having some talk right now. I think it's actually not bad. Definitely a decent side card going first to just end their turn pretty much. Secret Village, I hate this card. Other people love it and stand by it. I've had bad situations with it, and people were like, well, I'm going to try it, and then the same thing happens, right? This is not the Exodia Fusion, the Unstoppable, is not unaffected by everything. It just can't die by card effects. So it's still very susceptible to a lot of things. SP, Nightmare Unicorn, linking away with Underworld Goddess, and the Unchained Soul of Rage. Like, there's just so many ways to out this, even though it doesn't seem like it. There really is. And there's a lot of times where early on they would out this. I'm under my own Secret Village. I lose. I can't Auk anymore. I can't do anything. So I'm not a fan of this. But you could still play it, arguably. And then Summon Breaker, the last thing, during main phase 1, if the turn player conducts their third summon, it becomes the end phase. Something cute, a neat set rotation target, right? If you're pairing it with something like this, or Terraforming, just another like pseudo floodgate. Again, I don't think it's as relevant. It feels bad drawing this late game, but just something different. And then the extra deck, a lot of this I already talked about. Most of this stuff here is applicable to the Fiend Smith engine. Obviously SP if you can afford it. This is not an extra deck. These are just a bunch of random targets, right, that I personally use a lot. And then I think the one I hadn't talked about yet is Reaperdocus. If you have spare bodies, you use this, change the type of whatever it points to, and then you do whatever. So basically going into game 2 or 3, if you know what they're playing, you Escatos. Under the Reaperdocus, you make it either what you need to type-wise, declare it, and then they're locked out of the game. I did that a lot with Rescue Ace back in the day, using stuff like Proxy F and Puzzle Amino back when Airlifter was at 3. So, yeah, Gallic Granite we already talked about to get it rocks, and that's pretty much it. This is not a complete tech guide by any means, but I think it is probably, right now, more so a list of the most relevant enough stuff. Because there are things that exist, but I think are bad or too slow, like Appropriate or random things like that are just not good. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Are there things that genuinely you think I've missed? Are there things that you genuinely are enjoying in this? Are there other techs maybe I'm not thinking about post-Rhoda outside of just, adding Blue Eyes and adding Mulcharmy that are really good? But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you all on Sunday. Later.